Good morning, everyone. This is Tania, your nutritionist and fitness coach with Fit Nutrition here in the sunny Okanagan, and I just want to welcome you to another episode of For the Health of It. Today, I'd like to start out on embark on a series of 6 parts called the 6 components of health. There's many things that make up our health, and not just what we eat, not just what we're exercising and where we live and all those kinds of things, but there's 6 really key components that when we get them all in line, we can have optimal health. So along with that, each week we'll be talking about another one of the components and then putting a few fit tips, maybe some recipes in there, things like that to help you get going and energize with your day and just have some fun along the way as well. So today is going to be the topic of stress, and we're going to address that, and that's just a huge big topic in North America today, and in most first world countries actually. It's the number one thing. So if you're wondering what all the 6 components are, I'll run through them: sleep, stress, water, nutrition, exercise, and supplementation. And so the most important one, in my opinion, and in most health providers' opinions, is stress, because stress can cause huge disruption and upset within the body, imbalances, disease, illness, sickness, depression, physical ailments as well, where we can actually cause our body to go out of alignment and you need to see a chiropractor, things like that. There's so many things that stress affects that it's just really prudent to try and address a few of those things and, take a look, take a check with yourself and see where are you at today on a scale of 1 to 10. It's one of the questions that I ask my clients when they come through the door in our little assessment that we do is on a scale of 1 to 10, where do you find yourself with stress? So I'm doing a little pause there, so I want you to think about that and answer that for yourself. Write that down, and if that scares you, if that number scares you, then perhaps you need to think seriously about doing something to bring that number down. So before we get into stress, or de-stressing rather, I'd just like to offer a few tips on Halloween candy, because we just had Halloween not too long ago, and yet I still hear people talking about the bowls of candy laying around, or they have young kids so they haven't eaten all the candy yet and it's still sitting there looking at them. Parents are eating it, they're getting into it, and then they're feeling really bad and really guilty about it, or their kids are getting into it and just eating way too much of it at once, or they're trying to sort of moderate that and figure out how to do that. And I know a lot of the schools have gone to measures over the last years that they limit the numbers of items that the children can bring to school, which is great, and parents are limiting the numbers that the kids can eat at home, which is also great. But when they are having them, there's still that big, huge mass of sugar rush that goes through. And so what you can do for your child is, rather than just taking it all away and not letting them have that and then having those big arguments and, because kids are kids, and although sugar is not recommended in anybody's health portfolio, really, they are going to want a few treats once in a while, right? So you heard me talk about the PFC balance last week and why that's important, and why we need to maintain a balance within our body. And so we can even create that to some degree when the kids or yourself are indulging in sweets and candies. And our candies and sweets and all that kind of stuff is primarily a carbohydrate. Sugar is a carbohydrate. And so what happens is candies are very refined carbohydrates. And the more refined something is, the quicker it gets into your bloodstream and makes that blood sugar spike. And as soon as that blood sugar spikes, we can store fat, we get a rush of energy, and then we get, shortly later, between half an hour, an hour, we get that sort of crash where we're coming down, where sometimes you're going to feel tired, or you're going to feel grumpy, or you're going to feel a little bit out of sorts, maybe slightly headachy, nauseous sometimes for people. And that's a combination of, the sugar and the crash and the dyes and the colors and the artificial sugars that go along with all those things in those treats. And so in order to balance that and help to stabilize that and not create such a huge, big carbohydrate and blood sugar spike, is to have some protein before you have the treat. So what is a protein, right? We talked about that. Anything that's animal product is a protein. There are some plant-based proteins. Quinoa is a protein. Hemp hearts, chia, those all have protein in them as well too. So nut butters, although they're primarily a fat, they do have protein in them. So even just giving your kids, a handful of nuts or a piece of cheese or, a little container of Greek yogurt or something, a turkey pepperoni stick, some beef jerky, something like that to give them beforehand, and then let them have the little treat. Number one, they've already eaten something, so they're not going to be eating the candy as if they were hungry. So they're not going to want, want to go crazy and have several pieces. Not as likely. They still like the taste of it, right? But it's not going to drive them to eat more from hunger. And then it's gonna benefit you both. So you give them a little something to eat ahead of time. You let them have the treat, and then that balances out the blood sugar, and it's not gonna have that huge spike. And then you're not gonna get the huge crash, the tantrums, the crankiness, the tiredness, the maybe behavior, the oppositional, that kind of stuff. You can always lessen that. Like that'll bring that down. And of course, the fewer times you allow your child or yourself to spike and crash, the more even temperament you are, the better you are with patience, the better you are able to handle problems that come at you during the day, the more alert you are, the more even keel you are. You're just on a better path and feeling much better. You feel better, you have more energy, you don't feel like you're going to fall asleep at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So just something to think about when the kids come home from school and they really, really want to get into that candy bucket again, or that pillowcase, or whatever it was that they took out trick-or-treating. And when the kids are not around and you're sneaking your little pieces from there, or the whatever was left that didn't get taken on Halloween, and you're slowly going through that, then think about that. Have that after your dinner, or after you've eaten something really, really healthy and protein based, and you're going to really minimize the carnage, is what I like to say. So enough said about that. If you have some little tips that you do with your Halloween candy or your treats, then I'd love to hear them too. Oh, the other thing we used to do when my kids were little is one of my children is the very slowest eater of candy in the entire world, which I love. And so she had always a whole bunch left over. So what we would do is when it came time for Christmas and we would decorate gingerbread houses, we would just bring out that leftover candy, chop it up, open the boxes, the Smartie boxes and whatever, and use that on the gingerbread houses. Again, they're going to have a couple little bites as they're decorating the houses, but it's so much more fun to decorate it and to take a look at it and take pictures of it afterwards, and they're eating far less. And number two, you don't have to go out and buy other stuff if you do Christmas baking and things like that. So seeing as that season's coming up, I just thought I'd throw that little tip in there for you as well, for parents and grandparents, and something fun you can do with your kids. And another excuse you have too to not let them eat so much, you can tell them, hey, we can save that and use it for the gingerbread houses. So however you want to play that, more power to you with the parents and the grandparents. So stress, yes. Did you look at that number? So when I asked you to think about where your number is for stress, what was that number for you? And what did that do inside when you had to write that down? Was it down at 2 or 3 and it's like, yeah, I'm good? Or was it up at 7, 8, 9? I had one person come into my office one time and I said, so where's your stress level at? And they said, wow, well, if your scale went to 100, that'd be me. And I thought, wow, no wonder there's quite a few health challenges going on, because when we, stress is, a little bit of stress is okay, right? It promotes us to do things. It gets us moving. That little bit of stress once in a while, it says, oh, you're late. Oh, that makes me rush. That makes me hurry. That gets me out the door. Whew, I'm on time. I'm good. And the stress goes away. That's called acute stress, those little bits of stress that come on us like that, sometimes in the day-to-day life, sometimes unexpectedly, and those ones that come and then go are not the ones that are the problem for our health. It's the chronic stress that sticks around where we're living in it day after day after day after day after day that then becomes a problem. Because chronic stress will create inflammation inside our bodies. And chronic stress is, so we've all heard of the 3 F's, right? The fight, flight, or freeze. That's what happens to our body when we have this huge fear and stress that happens to us, right? It comes on. And that comes from, way back when we had to run away from predators, tigers, things like that. We lived out in the wild, the pioneers had to cut down their own homes, and they're maybe, thinking about being attacked, or wild animals, things like that, and the caveman sitting thinking about the tigers and all those kinds of things, and you had to be on edge, and you had that burst of adrenaline that would help you run or fight, because if you froze, you died. It wasn't a good thing. So you had to either do one or the other. And what happens today in our society is we have that, stress creates that same sort of response inside our bodies, where it's creating all this energy and adrenaline and that heightened awareness inside, making us feel stressed, and the heart rate is elevated, and all these things happen, anticipating that we are going to run or we are going to fight, but that never comes, because if we're chronically stressed from our job, or at things that are happening at home, or our finances, or our neighbors, or whatever it happens to be that's causing that continual stress, maybe there's an illness in the family, maybe it's yourself that's an illness, maybe it's your loved ones or things like that, and there's that constant stress that's happening, that that the release doesn't happen, then that's what's creating the inflammation. It builds and builds and builds and builds. And unless we make conscious efforts to release that, as if we were fighting the tiger or running from that tiger, fighting the enemy or running from the tiger, then it's not going to go away on the inside. And although we may look really calm on the outside, what it's doing to our health on the inside is quite damaging. So inflammation is the cause of all disease. I believe I mentioned that last week too. And we want to then lower that. And so with this stress that comes in on us, there's some physical things that we can really do that help to release stress. So exercise is a good one. Exercise is a known reducer of blood pressure and cholesterol and things like that. And those also are a result of stress. Right? That chronic stress comes in, elevates things inside our body, makes things a little bit heightened, and just gets us going on the inside, and it's really working against us trying to get those levels down. So whereas in hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago rather, people would run from the tiger, well, you're going to go to the gym, you're going to run on the treadmill, or you're going to go run around the block, or lift up some weights, or go outside and dig in the yard, or something like that, something where you use an expend a whole lot of energy, a big burst of energy. And when you do that, it's essentially like running from that tiger, but in a way that we can do today. And what that does is that releases the endorphins. It lets the stress come down and gives your body a sense of relief for a while. Because if you can't change what's coming on you externally, you need to change what you're doing day to day to allow a break in that, so you don't have the chronic stress. Chronic stress will also cause your cortisol levels to go up. Cortisol is what causes our bodies to retain fat. And then that also, things spike inside, and then it releases insulin. And as that keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, then pretty soon our body gets worn out, just like anything. We put too much stress on it, and things start to break down, they start to not work properly, and then we have breakdown, and we have disease, we have high blood pressure, we have cholesterol, we have heart issues, we have diabetes because of the weight gain, because of the blood sugar that's elevated. All of these things tend to happen, sometimes all of them, sometimes just one of them. Sometimes people can go for a really, really, really long time before anything happens. But what we do know is that when there's a massive amount of stress on the body, then the absence of disease, the absence of sickness on the outside does not mean there's an absence of disease on the inside, right? So that inflammation that I was talking about chronically on the inside, how it creates the issues, like say for heart disease and cholesterol and things like that, the walls of the vessels inside your body, the blood vessels will become rough, and things will then stick to it as it's going through. So our bodies are designed to eliminate cholesterol and fat and run very efficiently. And then we put things like inflammation in our body, which causes these little interrupters, those little things inside that are not conducive to a smooth elimination. So it's like if you fell down and skinned your knee, the scab that grows there is, kind of rough, right? It's the same idea. When we've placed a lot of inflammation in our bodies, it creates this little rough patch. And then as the cholesterol and things that are going past to try and get eliminated from the body, they stick. and then something else will come by, another piece will come by, and it'll stick to that as well. And pretty soon you have that blockage. So even though you may look really great on the outside, you may have this really calm exterior. If you have a heightened level of stress on the inside, if you're not taking care of that, if you're not releasing that, these kinds of things can be going on inside the body without you even knowing that. So we need to think about taking care of that. So we all agree that stress is bad, and having too much of it is not helping us in any way, and that we should be taking steps to take care of that, right? And reduce it, eliminate it. I don't think we're ever going to eliminate all the stress in our lives. It's probably not very realistic to think that we will. But I honestly believe that we can definitely move ourselves down from that 8, 9, 10 area all the way down into the 2, 3, 4 kind of level, where we're going to definitely get better health benefits. We're going to feel better, have more energy, and just live a healthier and better life. So what can we do? So we talked about exercise already. Exercise is a great way to get rid of stress. And a lot of people, I think, struggle with this one, just because if you're having a very stressful day, a lot of times when you get home at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is go out and exercise. You just want to flop down on the couch, grab a cup of tea, grab a drink, grab dinner, whatever it is, and turn on your favorite show and just get lost in it. And honestly, that's not doing your body any favors. So, we talked about exercise isn't the number one thing for keeping our bodies, keeping our weight down or anything, but it is one of the number one things for helping to reduce our stress. And relieving the stress will also help you lose weight. If you packed on a few extra pounds and you can't figure out why it's happening, and you're stressed, stress makes our body retain, like I said, with the cortisol levels, releases cortisol, and our cortisol makes our body store fat. So we want to, if for no other reason, right, that's going to be one of the reasons that's going to get you off that couch. So what can you do? Go for a brisk walk. One of those things, if you've had a stressful day and you know yourself and you know that if you go in that house and you sit on that couch that you're not going to get your butt off of it, my suggestion then is as soon as you pull in the driveway, leave all your stuff in the car, lock the car, and just go for a walk around the block. Go for a really brisk walk around the block, and deep breathing as you go, and you're going to feel so much better before you come back in and go in the house to meet your family. Just try it. I'd love to hear what happens with you. There are some supplements. Supplements is another way that we can help to relieve stress. Things like lavender, lemon balm, some omegas that helps. Green tea is another one. Lots of polyphenols and antioxidants to help relieve stress as well. Ashwagandha is another one. It's a root. So there's lots of different things you can try that way to balance. Especially this time of year too, some people are finding, have some trouble with the lack of light and stuff. So vitamin D is always a good thing to get checked and make sure that you're getting enough of that, because that's also going to bring down your moods, which is going to add to that internal stress. So it's not necessarily direct stress that we're thinking of with regards to, work or relationships or finances or anything like that, but it does actually create some internal stress. So doing something that makes you feel nice, makes your home calm, maybe light some candles in the evening. As we head into winter, we don't have so much daylight, so that might be a nice little relaxing ambiance there you can create for yourself. Again, you could maybe have some essential oils in your house. If that's your thing, get a diffuser. My caution here also, just a little caveat, when you have essential oils, is make sure that you are using a high quality one, like one that you could even eat, so a food grade. So there's some great companies out there that have wonderful quality oils that are safe, because sometimes also if you have a pet, just an FYI, if you're using some essential oils and they're from like the dollar store or other non-regulated sources, they may be hazardous to your pets as well. So just a little FYI there if you guys have pets and you're using essential oils. So Young Living and doTERRA are really good places to source out your oils. And reducing your caffeine. Take away that caffeine. Caffeine, will raise your heart rate. It heightens us. It's a stimulant. And we don't need to be stimulated anymore if we're stressed. We want to be calmed down, right? So we want to reduce that. So I know that sometimes people drink a cup of coffee to relax. I would go with a naturally decaf. If you like that, holding that warm cup of something and it just makes you feel good, then go with a herbal tea or go with a naturally spring water decaffeinated coffee or something like that. You're still going to get that warmth, that comfort, that little comfort feeling you have of holding that warm cup and just feeling really good about that, and you're not going to have the jitters and everything that go with it, especially later in the day. You want to stop that, in the early to mid afternoon, having things late at night like that. Even if you are one of those people that can sleep right after you have caffeine, there's a few of you out there, I know that. My husband is one of them. And if you are one of those people and you are very, very stressed, having that later at night is really not going to help you to have a good sleep and then rejuvenate for the next day. So sleep is another topic we're going to touch on coming up. Writing things down. Doesn't mean you have to do anything with it and, create a big story or a big journal or anything, but if you write down what's bothering you, take a look at it. Sometimes just taking a look at that going, wow, that really wasn't all that serious. I have a really great, a good friend and fellow health coach named Dan Miller. He's down in Colorado, I believe now. He's a wonderful coach. I've heard him speak a lot of times, and he just has such great information. And I love what he says. He says, ask yourself, we live in this great first world country, right? First world country. All of our problems are first world problems. Thank the Lord for that. And so when these things are coming at you and it just seems like the world is coming to an end and your day is just so stressful, and you're thinking, I have to get all this done. Do you really have to get all that done? Ask yourself, if I don't do this, will someone die? And I know that sounds a little extreme, but if you ask yourself that, put it into perspective. If I don't get this done, is someone going to die? The answer is probably going to be no, right? It's going to be no. If it's yes, of course, do it, right? If it's yes, obviously, don't let somebody, be in trouble. But most of the time, I think we put such great importance on things that really aren't that important. That saying, don't sweat the small stuff, it's all small stuff kind of thing. So sort of along those lines, take a look at exactly what you have in your day. So if you write it all down and you take a look and you're thinking, wow, that's an awful lot. I wouldn't expect that of my, employee, of my spouse, of whatever, then you might want to not expect that of yourself either. So sometimes we put a lot of the stress that we're having comes from ourselves. So that's just a little thing for you to take a look at and see where your stress is coming from. Chewing gum. I know that sounds kind of odd, but it's the pressure. When we chew gum or do heavy work like that exercise I talked about, or lifting or running or, running up and down stairs, anything that has to do with heavy, sucking on a water bottle or like those water bottles that you have to suck on them like a straw to get the water out. That whole pressure in the mouth area is it helps your brain, it helps the proprioceptors and everything line up and helps you relax and focus. So if things are going awry, a lot of times that will help. And then also, just a little thing, that chewing gum has been known to really help students with tests and stuff, and they now usually allow the kids to chew gum during math tests and science tests and finals and stuff like that, because they're knowing the studies are showing that it's allowing people to concentrate a lot better and calm down. So that's something easy you can do when you're in the car if things are a little stressful, or if you're at work and you can't get up and go run around. Something like that might help. Spending time with the people you love. A lot of times when we're super stressed, we want to just get stuff done. We go in our little bubble, we go in our tunnel vision, put the blinders on, and we're not hanging out with those people that really make us happy and laugh. And if you're going through some tough times, those are the people that you want to be spending the time with, because they're going to elevate you, they're going to lift you up, and they're there for you. So reach out to them. Everybody's got that little circle of friends or the people that you really, really enjoy hanging out with, or that you value their time. Laugh. Even if you're by yourself, laughing is something that we should be doing more often. It increases our oxygen because we're taking deep breaths when we do it. So then it increases our blood volume. It helps improve your immune system. It releases endorphins in your body. So even if you're just by yourself, just laugh. Think of the funniest thing that's ever happened to you and just let loose. And I can guarantee you in about 2 or 3 minutes, you'll have tears running down your face and you're going to feel so much better. And you've just let go of a whole lot of stress, right? trying not to put things off that you really need to do. So if you're prioritizing your list and you're like, okay, these things have to get done, but you're pushing them off, and you know in the back of your mind that that's always, poking at you. I've got to get that done. I still have to do that. Oh, I haven't done that yet. Oh, I have to get that done by Sunday. That sort of thing. That time that you're pushing it off for is not giving you any better quality time. All it's doing is prolonging the agony and creating more stress. It's heightening it as it's kind of like that snowball going downhill. It's gathering, it's getting bigger and it's gathering more moss kind of thing in the rock that rolls downhill, right? So yoga is one of the ways that I love to relax too. Once a week, I make sure that I do that. And when I'm concentrating on the person who's directing the class and listening and doing exercises directed by somebody else and paying it, listening to them, it doesn't allow my thoughts to wander. So although I do, I'm an instructor, I've taught lots and lots of classes, I train myself and whatever, going somewhere and having someone else talk me through things keeps my mind on what I'm doing that day and allows me a whole hour of not thinking about anything else in my day, and it's very, very relaxing. Put on some nice music that you like. That's also a good one. You can put your headphones in and relax for a few minutes. Anywhere. You can do that anywhere. In the car, at your office, in your house, wherever. And that's an easy one to do. Deep breathing, also something you can do anywhere. And box breathing, if you haven't heard of that, is something that the military used to use, or still does probably use for training for underwater breathing and extended exercises like that. So what that is breathing in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and release. Breathe out for a count of 4 and hold. So it's sort of, if you have a picture in your mind of a box, it has 4 sides, and every time you're breathing in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. So it sort of makes that little box, right? You can picture that in your mind. And that's very calming. It's very deliberate. Again, because you have to focus on what you're doing and because you have to count and all those things, it doesn't allow your mind to wander and focus on anything else and keep poking at you about those things that you're not doing. So you can do that for a couple minutes. It allows your body to calm down and release some stress and let you come back in at a much more relaxed and open way to do the rest of your day. Pets are always good. Who doesn't like pets? Pet your cat. Pet your dog, take your dog for a walk. If you don't have a pet, go to the pet store. Watch some puppies play. Find a cat video on YouTube or something. They're hilarious. Anything like that is just going to distract you, make you smile for a little while. Some of these sound pretty silly, I get it, but they actually do work. If they're making you feel better, and you're going to find the combination that works for you. Some people, they're going to have something that they always do. They're going to maybe have a nice bath to relax at the end of the day. That's my husband's thing. He comes home from work and he likes to sit in the bath for a good long time, and that's just his happy place. Lets him decompress and relax, and then he's, wonderful and communicative for the rest of the evening. When he misses that bath, it's just, he's just not quite as happy. And that we find these things that get us through the day, that make our lives more comfortable, that make us more fun, make us more happy people, and it puts us in our comfort zone. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. So try a few of those things if you don't have something that you normally do already, because I encourage you, if you do have a high stress level, if your number was somewhere 7, 8, 9, 10 up there, we want to try and reduce that. So seriously thinking about finding trying one of those things if you don't have something of your own. If you have something of your own that used to work for you and you just gotten off track with it, then reconnect with that. Get back on track. If it worked before, chances are it'll work again for you. And if it doesn't, then, try one of my suggestions or ask a friend what they do and, see if you can put a few of those things into place and then do it consistently. It's kind of like if you had an allergy to medicate or like say asthma or something, and you have to take your inhaler every day, and then you just don't take your inhaler one day. I mean, it's not going to help you, right? So these kinds of things that we learn, these strategies, get us through life and get us through life better and enjoying it and being more comfortable. So when you find that strategy that works for you, that de-stresses you, that allows you to come back as a better, happier, more well-adjusted person, then why would you stop doing that, right? Make it part of your day, schedule it in, don't miss it. It's one of those important appointments that's good for you. It won't cost you anything. All of those things I mentioned don't cost you anything at all. And a lot of the times that's the buffer for people, is like, I don't have any time or I don't have any money. So I'm going to be suggesting things that you can do that are not going to cost you any money or not a lot of time, but they are going to be a huge investment in your health. And with our health, we can either invest in it now or we can pay to regain it later. So with that, thanks for joining me today. Tania Gustafson here with For the Health of It, and you can find me at fuelignitethrive.com.